To talk today about connective tissue proper. And we'll talk just the basics today about what kind of defines them, and then when you're thinking about identifying them, that'll be in a separate video. But for connective tissue proper, we have it in kind of two categories. The first category is dense, okay, and they're dense with lots and lots of protein. Okay, and the different proteins kind of depend on which tissue we're looking at. Okay, but one of the main proteins that we think about especially is collagen. There are three dense connective tissue propers. The first is regular, and it's defined as regular because the proteins all line up together in one regular line. So the tension in that tissue is going to go in that same direction along with that protein. Okay. The second type is irregular. Irregular is different in that the proteins are not lined up together like that. I like to kind of think about them swirling like the top of your latte if you've ever gotten a nice fancy coffee. And this allows for us to pull the tissue in multiple directions without ripping it, right? The third one is called elastic. An elastic tissue still contains much of the protein fiber. The orientation of it is going to be different depending on where it is in the body. But a big thing that it has, right alongside the collagen, is it has these elastic fibers. So this tissue is going to be a little bit more flexible. So while these two are much more tough, there's more flexibility in this tissue. I do want to point out that these connective tissues still have flexibility. It's just they're not nearly as flexible as the elastic tissue. The second of connective tissue propers is the loose. And our loose connective tissue propers are going to have more interstitial fluid. Interstitial fluid. I want to point out they do still have protein. It's just not necessarily as much, and it won't be as big of a role in the tissue as the fluid. Okay. So of these, there's also three. The first is going to be reticular. And what defines reticular is that it contains reticular fibers, okay? And these reticular fibers, they kind of crisscross throughout the tissue, right? So we got our reticular fibers. And they crisscross through the tissue and kind of work like a basket around whatever organ they're in. But you see there's still a lot of space for that fluid, okay? But we have a little basket to carry specific organs in. The second type is adipose tissue, which most people refer to as fat. And it is going to be primarily comprised of adipocytes, or fat cells, which they have the lipids stored here, and then all of their organelles are jammed up on the side. But they sit together and they contain your storage. The third type is areolar. And areolar is probably more common than the other two, and we find it's one of the least structured. It's a little bit less structured. But you'll find that it has a lot of fluid and a lot of space, and it's often found in membranes to help reduce that friction. Anyway, those are the 6 of the connective tissue proper types, and we will talk about how to separate what they look like as well in a future video.